Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Sean Pahut, who's a financial consultant with Montana Wealth Management. Sean, welcome to the program.
Good to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and I'm excited to talk to you because I think that you're one of our somewhat neighbors. I'm in Colorado, you're in Montana, so we've got some neat environmental things to talk about the nice open skies and blue skies and weather and wonderfulness that way, and the mindset that brings. But before we dive into what you do and how you serve your clients, give us a little bit of your background and what led you into the financial services industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just finished my 25th year in the business in July. Kind of crazy, but actually I had a professor in college. I went to college here in Montana who had an investing class. And basically he was just, talking about, stocks and bonds and allocations and why it's important to invest in inflation, kind of the basics. Really got me hooked. And I graduated in finance. So I started working for banks, and I really got to know a lot of the advisors who were actually in the banks at that time and visiting with them about how their job works. And it just kind of kept my interest the whole time. And so after about 3 years on the finance area, I was able to move into investments and been there ever since.
Yeah. I remember way back in the day, I spent about a decade in the mortgage banking industry with JP Morgan Chase. And so I was co-located the last couple of years in with some of the banks. And you would see back in the back corner are the private client, wealth management employees. And so that's where you're talking about there, where you kind of get a little bit of a feel for the finance and the money and how it all comes together. And in reality, boy, a bank becomes your hub. You have your checking account, then your savings. Well, you might need this, that, the other, and it starts ramping up from there. And I think that it's really interesting to think about how when you start going, okay, I need a savings for these things. And then, once we build from the savings, we might need, and then that might lead to, and the end result is, what about at the end of the timeline, retirement? And beyond. Like retirement is not like a single event. It's like you're moving through retirement. You're not moving to it. You're moving through it. So I think that that's a really neat mindset. Talk a little bit about what you learned from being a bank advisor and then going into being an independent wealth advisor.
Great points. Yeah. And that's exactly what I learned. When you're in the bank, you understand. And when you have those conversations, you really get a good feel about how people think and how they think about their money. And then number one, everybody's different, but we all have the same challenges, right? We all want to work and we have passion for what we do, but we know there's some time that we eventually want to end. But I think you just made a great point. I hear a lot of our clients and have for 25 years say, well, I need to grow, but then I retire. And I need to get out of the market. I need to go more conservative. And the interesting thing, that I've learned is that it doesn't stop, right? People will work for sometimes, 25, 30, 35 years and will be retired for another 20 years or even more, depending on their longevity. And so the thought process really has to be, and I think that's one thing we bring to the table with our process, is that it can't just be about retirement. It has to be about, using the tables from the insurance industry, your mortality. When do we think, or when do we anticipate the average person living until? And if the average person is living until, 88, 90, 92 years old, and you retire at 70, that's a long time. And we really have to make sure that, as unfortunately people are seeing today, this was given to me a long time ago, but, we look at inflation as kind of the heart attack of investing. You don't really know it's a problem until it's too late. And as people are finding out, if they really, haven't invested well and don't have the proper portfolio and risk allocation for what they need, higher drug prices, higher food, gas, all of a sudden people are going, wow, my monthly income is not going as far as it used to. And if they've, owned CDs and things like that in the past that were getting 0.25% or 0.5% because they felt it was safe, unfortunately, it's very difficult right now to sometimes talk to these clients and say, we really need to change what you've been used to for a long time. And go ahead.
I was just going to say that I want to talk about your process because I love process. You show me a blueprint and a checklist, I can follow it. But you mentioned the word conservative, and I want to get your opinion on this and just out of curiosity. Did you find that you had clients at the bank versus clients as now independent when you're working here with Montana Wealth Management? Is the conservativeness different at all, one way or the other, from bank clients to clients you're working with now? Or is it more of a matter of, well, it really just depends on the age that they're at and how many years until retirement?
Great question. The answer to that, in my opinion, is yes. Because a lot of times you might get a referral from a banker that would come over. And what I found was bank clients a lot of the times did have that mentality of, well, so-and-so sent me over because you might have better interest rates, than the bank CDs. Yeah. And so the conversation definitely was one of, I've said for a long time, I consider myself my client's financial doctor, because we really need to understand where our clients are at. We can't just say, well, look, we've got a 3-year CD at 0.5% or 1%. For my process, like you were saying, I always want to understand where my clients are at, because we need to understand that, just like when you go to your primary care physician, let's, fill out they call it the H&P, the history and physical. Even if you were there 6 months ago, you're going to fill it out again. What's changed? Are you taking any medication? We do the same thing. Where is your money at now? Is it all inside the bank? Do you have brokerage accounts? Do you have CDs? Do you have annuities? Because we really need to understand the makeup, number one, of their current financial situation. And number two, we need to understand what their lifestyle is. Are they people that, hey, we like to travel a lot, or we traveled when we were younger. We just like to stay here. Our family's local, and we just want to have enough to live on so we can be with our grandkids. Or maybe their families are spread out across the United States, and they want to have enough money to be able to travel while they still can, to see their grandkids or see their kids. And all of that information is invaluable, because what that really allows us to do is, again, on the medical side, provide that diagnosis. Well, here's your current situation. Here's where you want to be. And here's our recommendation for how we think you can best get there. We want you to make up, we want you to be able to make up your retirement years and live it the way you want to. And that's our biggest goal. I've told prospective clients, I'm not going to sit here and promise you, we're going to get the best returns every year. We're going to get you 10% every year. There's a lot of clients out there that have done very well while they've been working, and maybe to maintain their lifestyle, they only need to stay up with inflation. Maybe they only need to get 5 or 6% a year. And when we utilize our software, it's saying that, yes, inflation is higher at this time, but it's not going to last forever, so that we can really develop a portfolio that has the correct amount of risk inside that portfolio. If you don't need to be in small cap stocks, why should you be there? If you tell us you want to retire a millionaire, yeah, exactly. And excuse me, I've had people where I've told them, we really only need to get you about 5%, 6% a year, and you're going to be able to live the life that you've told me. Now, obviously, if things change and you have a major medical, but I think that's what the plan brings together too, is we get to know them, it's documented, And then if things change, I've had people say, well, I want to buy another house. I want to buy another boat. We can utilize our software, go in and kind of plan that out and say, well, if you use this chunk of money, or with interest rates as low as they were, a lot of times, sometimes it's best to finance it, because the spread over what we can make them versus what they're paying, sometimes it's better to use someone else's money. And those are the things that we can bring to the table for our clients. We always encourage them, look, we're a sounding board. You don't have to ask our permission, but if you're wondering, is this the right thing to do? Would this be a good move or a bad move? That's why we're here as well.
Well, I love when you talk about your process of being that doctor. It reminds me of this old phrase, which I'm sure is attributed to someone out there, but something to the effect of prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. So if you have a client that comes to you at Montana Wealth Management and go, hey, I need to talk to you about retirement, and you're like, okay, cool. What you need to do is, you don't even know what they need. You don't know what they've done that's worked in the past, that's not worked in the past. You don't know where they want to be, how long to retirement, what does their retirement look, all of those questions. So taking that diagnostic questioning approach is so critical, because you can then listen through the ears and eyes of, okay, good, they're talking about this. Oh, I'm going to ask this question to clarify. Oh, you know what? Here's something that they might benefit from. Let me just make sure that I'm asking this question. I think that right there is so important, that too many times people feel like just another number. But if you're diagnosing and asking questions before you make your recommendation, boy, people feel heard and they feel like your recommendations really fit them.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And I think that's the biggest thing, just even throughout life. People want to be heard. And if they have a question or a concern, I always tell them, look, my door's open. And I want to make sure that, if there's a problem, especially with this market we've had and the volatility and just the craziness that has been going on, through COVID, I always tell my clients, look, don't ever think that any question is stupid. There is no stupid question. And if you're feeling worried about something or how this affects your plan, please reach out, give me a call. We'll make an appointment. We'll come in, or, if you can't come in, we'll make sure we have a Zoom meeting or just on the phone, and let's get your questions answered and let's walk you through it. And again, you go back to the doctor. It's so interesting because, a lot of our clients think if we're not reaching out to them, we're not looking at their portfolios. We're not, staying on top of it. And I always tell them, well, look, how many times has your doctor called you? Some do, most don't. They wait for you to call in because they don't know if you're sick. And I tell them the same thing. I'd love to be a mind reader and know. I said, we have our schedule, to make sure that we're reaching out to our clients, multiple times a year as we should. But if for some reason in between that, don't ever hesitate to pick up the phone, even if it was just a few weeks ago. Say, hey, Sean, we got our statement. Yeah. We've got some questions. Can you come in? Because that's why we're here. We're here to provide that service. We're here to make sure that they're confident going forward.
So here's a question, and this is me from the outside listening in and not even knowing whether this is available or not. But I'm certain that it's not available to have every one of your clients with set triggers that your computer software says, if this happens, notify Sean so that he can notify them. But I'll bet you that you have certain triggers of, well, when this sector is doing this thing, go to these clients that are in that sector and just assess to see if there's moves that they could make, should make. So that describes that you are doing work behind the scenes, even if you're not talking to them. And if something dramatic is happening, maybe there's some clients you're going to reach out to. But talk a little bit about how you have the finger on the pulse of the sectors, the industries, the markets, just making sure that there's nothing, rumbling in there that you need to notify your clients about.
Absolutely, and those are great points. And what we also use too is just like the doctor analogy, right? You have your primary care physician, but then you also have your heart doctors and your your brain doctors and dermatologists and every other specialist. We also utilize on our team. We have specialists that on a daily basis are looking at these portfolios that, we can be in contact with and say, hey, let's go, we'll get information sent to us saying, hey, here's what did well, here's what didn't do well, here's the adjustments that are being made into the portfolios. And so we can't be there 24/7, right? And I think us being fiduciaries, which is an important word I'm sure everybody's heard, in the last year or so, having a partner like that on our team that is watching these portfolios 24/7 while I might be, talking with you or might be talking to my clients, providing that service, we always have eyes on the portfolios and they're doing the macro and the micro and making adjustments based on that. So that's a great point. It's behind the scenes that a lot of people may or may not, notice. But we do have those partners, and I think that's an invaluable service because we do have someone that is watching these portfolios, and it doesn't matter if they're aggressive or conservative. They know what to do. We know what to do. We're in contact with them. So you're absolutely right. It's a great service that and I think you have to have that, right? It's the old days of suitability are they're not gone, but they're going away as far as, if I say you should buy this mutual fund, you buy it and I never talk to you again. That's kind of going away of we need to really service our clients. We need to understand where they're at, and we need to continually understand where they're at and make sure that their investments continue to mirror where they're at on a, not necessarily a daily basis, but, as we meet, even if I meet my clients on, once a year, we're going to do that H&P again. Where are you at? What's changed? Do we need to update your investment objective? Or, have you decided, hey, we're going to start traveling more, so we want to spend another $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year? Well, that may change the potential investment objective because now we have to anticipate, bigger withdrawals and or required distributions, things of that nature. And then we can have that conversation. And at the end of the day, our clients could say, no, I don't like this. That's too much. And that's okay. At least they're making an informed decision, which is huge too, right? You don't have to listen to your doctor, but they need to present you all of the evidence. And I think that's what we have to do now by using those plans to say, this is where you need to be. If you're not comfortable, that's okay. We're gonna make sure we document that, and we'll be a little bit more conservative in the investment objective. But just know that by doing this, here's potentially what could happen. Just so they're aware.
100%, and I think that all of that process and that approach in the process of having the doctor diagnostic aspect of things makes people feel good. Knowing that someone's behind the scenes kind of monitoring is huge. Having that specialist, and I would suspect that gives the feeling of clarity and kind of peace of mind when you're thinking about having a plan, both investment side on building for your financial future and your retirement, as well as the legacy, deaccumulation side of your estate plan. We don't need to get into the details of what that should look like, but boy, talk a little bit about the final point of just knowing that having that plan in place gives that clarity and peace of mind so that they feel like, okay, I got my ducks in a row.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've always really recommended to people is you need to have a team, right? A stool doesn't work very well with two legs. You need at least 3 or 4 for that stool to be solid. And I've recommended for a long time when I talk to my clients as part of our process and our questioning, do you have a CPA or an accountant you work with? Do you have an attorney? And then do you also have an attorney who maybe specializes in estate planning? Because that can be complicated. In my opinion, again, you can't just go out and hire any attorney, especially for estate planning, because every state is different. The rules are very complicated. Obviously, they're changing all the time, as are tax laws, right? Every time a new president comes in or new Congress, the tax laws could change. And you really need to have that expert watching you. And by having that, I can have that conversation with my client and get their permission to talk to their attorney or CPA and say, this is where we're at. Because we've had conversations in the past where the CPA has said, this is their tax bracket. Is there any way that we could maybe add some tax free, to keep them maybe in a lower tax bracket. Because at the end of the day, our job is to make money for our clients. But it's also, if we can help them tax wise and take those recommendations from their experts, maybe we can adjust the portfolios and really make it a better situation for our clients on that end. And then the attorney wise, if they go and decide, hey, we've got a will or we did a trust, get them to the experts because they're going to know what's best for them.
Yeah. And
then we can adjust beneficiaries. And if we have to retitle accounts because the attorney felt like it was most appropriate to open up whether it was a revocable trust or irrevocable or whatever they decide, but it's that partnership. And then I think that really lends to that feeling of, just things are being handled. Okay, we feel good. We have somebody watching our investments, and they're all coordinating with each other, so that in an event of death, it's tough enough to grieve, but to have to worry about a ton of paperwork and we don't know where everything is and
to try to make decisions at that point is not the right time. So if you have done your job right, you've explained and guided and educated them through the process so that they are making the right decisions ahead of the time when it's intense and they understand it going through. They're making the right decision. You're just guiding them. I think that right there is one of the key points that makes people feel comfortable, clear, and really confident in what you're talking about. So I just love your approach, Sean, and I think this is really spectacular. What's the best way someone can learn more about your services there at Montana Wealth Management and reach out and connect with you?
Well, our website is www.montanawm for wealthmanagement.com. They can always email me at Sean, SEAN, at montanawm.com is my email address. And they can always just reach out for an appointment or a phone call and be happy to talk to them more in depth and even more specifically about their situation. It'd be great. We try to make it as easy as possible and just kind of as laid back as possible. There's no pressure. We don't really charge for any, initial consultation, that type of thing. If people want to come in and just have a conversation and see if we're right and we're a good fit, because I think that's huge too, Mike, is you have to really be a good fit because everybody does their business a little bit differently. And I always tell my clients, I love to talk to you on the phone, but I love to meet with you even more. And if you get a feeling that, wow, I don't like this guy, we're not a good fit, it's not a good thing, but it's a good thing because you're not doing business with somebody that you really don't trust and you don't think is working in your best interest. So I am all for having, conversations initially, getting together initially, and just really kind of talking a little bit more in depth and maybe more specifics, kind of face to face about their situation. And then they can make a decision and go, gosh, I really love what he does. I get a good feeling about him. I enjoy talking with him because that's just as important as anything.
100%. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
I appreciate your time and look forward to talking again.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.